It's a lot easier when you don't have to get out of the house. Wow, the whole Olam. Okay, we are, uh, that's not where we're up to. We are up to Daf Chavches Amid Beis. By the two dots, 7 lines down. Yehuda Aimer Achi Yishchat Levridin. Gemara leaves it out. The Mishnah we had said, it talked about the Shechita. The Shechita has to be roiv of each siman by behemo, or roiv of one siman by an oif. But Yehuda disagreed. He interjected. He said it's not enough to just do roiv of the siman. You also have to do the vridin. You have to cut the veins or the arteries. Amar Chizdal, Amar Rabbi Yehuda ela ba'oif. Rabbi Yehuda only set his din by a bird. Since it's not cut into pieces. But a behemoth, since it's cut into all its constituent limbs, it's not necessary to cut the vridin at the time of the shechita. The Gemara says, remember the time of Rabbi Yehuda mishum damu. This l'chayra suggests that the reason why Rabbi Yehuda requires the cutting of the veins and the arteries, specifically when he cuts the simanim, is because we want to extract the dam. As you know, we have to go to all kinds of efforts to make sure that the dam comes out of a behemoth. So the Gemara is suggesting that on a behemoth, since you cut up the avarim, that takes out the dam. But by a oif, since you don't have that cutting up of avarim into different parts, in order to ensure that it's not dam, which you're not allowed to eat, you have to cut the veins or the arteries at the time of the shechita. As the Gemara is going to say later on, during the shechita, the animal is still warm, so it's easier to extract the blood. So you can extract the blood, even though the animal is going to remain whole, and you're not going to get the blood to drain out like that. But you can do it at the time of shechita when the blood is still hot, warm, and it's flowing. You can get it out. But Yehuda says until you shech the vridin, if the whole point of cutting the arteries is only to get the dam out, so there's no din be'etzem of shechita that you have to do. You have to do with all the rules of shechita, with the five rules that limit that you have to do. You can't wait, shia and drisa and all that. But if the whole point is just to get out the dam by cutting the artery, none of that is necessary. You just need to some way puncture it. So why does Rabbi Yehuda say achi yishchet es avrim? So tomorrow em achi yinakav es avrim. My achi yishchet achi yinakav b'shas shchita. Einachanami, it doesn't mean to say that you have to do bedavka shchita with a knife, but the point is you have to do it at the time of shchita, as the Gemara will explain later, and as we've already explained, because that's when the blood is warm and it's able to get out the dam and make the animal kosher. Tashma, v'ridin b'shchita divrei Rabbi Yehuda. The v'ridin needs shchita according to Rabbi Yehuda. There a brayso that says that you need shchita. So l'chayra, this is not like Rav Chizda who said that you don't need shchita, you just need to be menakiv. You just need to make holes in the vridin. Aim of vridin tzarach l'nakvam b'shas shchita. Again, this just means that at the time of shchita, you have to make a hole. Tashma, amulay Rabbi Yehuda, me'achash huskru vridin el l'hoitzi mehen dam, mali b'shchita, mali shaloi b'shchita. They asked on Rabbi Yehuda, since the vridin is only necessary to remove dam, why does it need bedavka shchita? From the fact that they're asking him, why does it need to be done with shchita? So you see that Rabbi Yehuda does require that it's done with a shchita motion. So we know haki kamala. Again, the same question They're basically the same shakvataria, just in different ways. We're saying it doesn't mean to ask why does it have to be done with a shchita motion. It means why does it have to be done at the time of shchita? What's taka the reason why he says it has to be done b'shah shchita? B'shah shchita asi dam d'chaim. At the time of shchita, since the dam is bubbling, it's hot, so it'll come out. Shaloi b'shah shchita liasi dam dekar. The dam won't come out if it's not at the time of shchita because the dam is cold and it oozes. It doesn't go forth as strong. Boy Rav Yirmiyah, reading Rav Yehuda. This that Rabbi Yehuda says that you have to b'shah shchita also cut the arteries in addition to the simanim. Shah behen doris behen ma. What happens if he didn't do the full the full shchita? He did shia, he waited, or doris behen, he pushed on it instead of sawing. Amalei usaba hachi amar belazav amilo amalei hausaba lira belazav hachi amar b'yachem naku mekaitz v'hink sherin. According like Rav Chizda, all you have to do, you could even make a hole with a thorn. You don't need a kosher knife. As long as you cut the vridin or you somehow make the vridin, open the vridin at the time of shchita, that's sufficient. Tanya Kavasad Rav Chizda, shachat shnei chatzoi simonim ba'oif pasuk. If he shachted the two halves of a simon, he didn't do a roiv, he only did half. It's possible. And certainly by a behema, it's going to be possible because you didn't do a roiv, you only did half. So he said both by a oif and a behema, it's not going to be kosher if you didn't do roiv. And Rabbi Yehuda says by a oif you have to do the vrid. So clearly, Rabbi Yehuda is only saying his din legabi oif, not like gabi behema. Because like Rav Chizda had said before, behema, since you cut it up, you cut up the different parts of the animal, you don't need to cut the vridin at the time of shchita, but if you do. So for the fact that Rabbi Yehuda specifically limits his disagreement to a knife, by his dice, he's saying the svara that Rav Chizda said, that it's because of the dam. Zok the Gemara, Chatzi echad ba'oif, we said in the Mishnah, that if you do half of an oif, or of one simon, half of one simon, or half of two simonim by a behema, it's going to be puzzle. A half is not sufficient. Itma. Rav Amar mechza al mechza karoiv, Rav Kahana Amar mechza al mechza ein karoiv. Rav says a half and half, once you have even equal halves, it's considered like a roiv. And Rav Kahana says mechza al mechza ein karoiv. Rav Kahana says half and half is not considered roiv. So Rav Amar mechza al mechza karoiv, which is obviously not like our Mishnah. The Gemara later on, it's going to explain how this will be accommodated by a mitzvah. Our Mishnah. Rav Amar mechza al mechza karoiv hachi amalei rachman l'Moshe. The Rebbeinu Shalom said halacha l'Moshe miSinai that you have to do roiv. By behema, you need, when you do shchita, you need roiv. What it says is loy teshaya ruba. What it means is you can't leave over a roiv. That means the part that you're leaving over can't be a roiv. But as long as you did a mechza, that's considered as if you did a roiv. He says straightforward. The Torah says you have to shech the roiv. That means you have to shech the roiv, not like Rav's chiddush outlook that when the Torah says that shchita needs a roiv, it means you can't leave over a roiv. So but according to him, you leave if you do half, that's sufficient. Tnan. Chatzi echad ba'oif, ve'echad v'chetzi behema shchita psula. He said if you do half of a shchita by a knife, half of a simon by a knife, and 1.5 simon by behema, the shchita is psula. V'yamar mechza roiv amai pasol. What this our Mishnah says very directly that mechza is possible, and it points it out. It's not like it's just happens to indicate that. It's almost the point of that part of the Mishnah. So Gemara midrabanan. No, this is all the Dirabanan that Enochanami Midaraisa just Mechza would be enough. When the Mishnah says they have to do its puzzle, it's only Midarabanan. Dilmali also Lemevet Palga. Because if we allow you to do half, we're worried that you'll do a little less than half. You do 49%, and that is even Midaraisa no good. Amrav Katina, Toshma, Cholku L'Shnayin V'hein Shavan. So the Rashi explains, Cholku L'Shnayim, Tanur Shenitma. We're talking about a tanur which is made out of cheres, and it became tamei. Ein lo tahira el letitza, because kedichsev yutatz. The only way to be retire something made out of cheres, there's no hagala, there's no tefillah, there's no tefillah in a mikvah. There's nothing to be done about it except for breaking it into pieces. Now, breaking into pieces means that it can't have a roiv of it still in one piece, and it's not considered broken. Broken means into less than, each piece is smaller than half. So Rashi says, as long as one part is roiv, it's not going to be, or I should say, as long as at least a half of it, we'll see what it means, it's going to be puzzle. So Zakta Brisa, Cholkol Shnayim Vein Shavin Shnei Tmein. If you broke up the tanner into two equal parts, it's still going to be tamei. Lefishi yashul etzamtzim, because you can never get it exactly right. One part's going to be a little bit bigger. If you only have two pieces, it's always going to be puzzle because you can never get it exactly right, and one's going to be more than a roiv, and therefore it's not considered to have broken up. But the mashmoy says, if you could get it exactly right, it would be tar. Amai tahirin zilhacha ikaruba. Why don't we say that if it's efshel etzamtzum, according to Rav, he says half is considered like a roiv, so let each part be considered. Why would it be tar if we were able to mitzamtzum? It should still be puzzle because each half is considered to be a roiv. Amar Papa Trei Rubi B'chad Mano Leka. He says that it's a difference by a kli, because b'manavshach you can't have two roivs in the same kli. You try to find out which half is if either half is a roiv, it's not going to be good. It's impossible to have two roivs. It's the same mana, so you can never have 51. You can never have more than 100% of something. So it's impossible to have two 51%. Toshma. Again, back to our question on Rav. Rav holds that mechza is like roiv. Toshma. Shachat chatzi gergeres. If you shechted half of a kana, v'sha'aba kadesh shita acheres. This is the brisa we had before, and he waited after doing that half of a kana, and he waited until he made a shia, he made a pause that passes a shchita, the gomer shchitas, and then he finished the shchita. Ksheira, it's a kasha. V'yamar mechza karoiv itrafala. How can it be kosher if, according to Rav, a mechza is karoiv? At that point, it already became a treifa. So when you pause, you can't resume the shchita. It was all based on that we looked at the Mishnah and we said that a mechza is not sufficient to be a shchita, and therefore it's also not sufficient to make the animal a treifa. It's as if you got a nick in the kana, which doesn't pass the shchita. It's you did something inconsequential before. But according to Rav, it is consequential because it's considered to be a full seven that should make it possible also treifa. So misavis behema v'loy ba'oif. Do you really understand this to be talking about where he did this? That we're talking about a behema, not a oif. Mechza al mechza. Mechza al mechza karoiv ha'avid le'ruba. Mechza al mechza ain't karoiv le'avid le'klum. I'm sorry. Misavis, but behema, do you think we're talking about behema? No. We're talking about an oif. So by oif, you could say a memanavshach. If you're going to treat it as a full shechita. The, the point of this is, I think, that we said that you have to do, even according to Rav, we said mechza is not going to be good midrabanan. But over here, even midrabanan, it's going to be good. Because you're going to be able to say in mamanavshach. If mechza is good, is sufficient, if he did less than half, it's not a problem because he went and finished the rest of the shechita. And if he didn't get if he did get to the half, so he already finished the shechita midaraisa. So there's no way for a problem to arise on this. So it sounds like what we're saying is by an oif, even though midarabanan, half is not good, but if you continue and you finish the shechita, even though you waited, there's no way for it not to be good. If you did less than half, it's still a good shechita because you finish it off later, and what you did before is of no consequence. I don't know, but the Mefarshim talk about this. Why? What does it mean? You make him a manavshach. The point should just be that if it's mechza, that it's already good.
So what you're saying, according to the Rabbanan, it's not.
Midrabanan, you mean? What are we talking about? Right. That this is the problem. How does the fact that it's how can you say a manavshach if the Rabbanan, if midrabanan, it should be possible? So I'm suggesting that maybe there's no takanas chachamim in that case. Tashma, haresha hayachatzi kana pagum, ba'isel of kol shuva gomer shchitasik shera. We said if there was a pagam in the animal and you did a little bit more to get to the to finish the shchita, it's kosher. V'yamer mechza mechza karoiv treva havi. V'yamer mechza mechza karoiv treva havi. How could you say chatzi kana pagum is kosher, but it's already a treifa? According to Rav, that's more than half. He says, no, that which we say, that Rav says, that a chatzi is karoiv, is only the gabi, the shchita being sufficient. But the gabi making the animal a treifa, mechza is not. And this would really answer our previous questions. Roiv hanir le'naim is another way of saying that it has to be an actual roiv, not just chatzi. Amle abaye v'loi kol shekenu matre v'de mashu mitrafa hecha de bin ru bin roiv hanir le'naim. If by a treifa, which there could be treifas in places like in the eye and the ear, it could be even a mashu, and it's still enough to make a treif. And even so, you need a roiv when it comes to the simanim to make it a treifa. Shchita da adeka ruba loy miskashal lekol shekenu bin roiv hanir le'naim. Certainly, it doesn't make sense that when you're shechting the simanim, it should be kosher with just a mechza, and that's considered to be like a roiv. You should also need a roiv hanir le'naim, a real roiv. Ela de kumi alma mechza mechza ain't a roiv. Everyone agrees mechza mechza not roiv. V'chiyit med the Rav Kahana le'inyan Pesach. This whole thing is a mistake. This memra of Rav that he says that a mechza is like a roiv is only legabe Pesach. It's not legabe shchita. What does that mean? It maharisha hayusro mechza tzahiru mechza tmei. If the yidin did, we know there's two separate dinim by Karban Pesach. One din is that if an individual yid is tamei at the time of the Karban Pesach on Yud Daled Nisan, he waits for Pesach Sheni. But if Roiv Yisrael is tamei, then everyone can go ahead and bring their karbanos on Pesach Rishon. You don't wait for Pesach Sheni. So we said, what happens if exactly half of the Bnei Yisrael are tamei? Harisha Yisrael mechza toiru mechza tmei. Rab Amar mechza al mechza karoiv. We treat the mechza of tmein as if they're a roiv, and we allow the bringing of the Karban Pesach b'zmana. Rav Kahana Amar mechza al mechza ain't a karoiv. Rav Kahana disagrees. Well, my time. Well, what's the reasoning? If it's not a universal din of Ravs that mechza is karoiv. It's only in that case. So what's the reason why? Also, my time the Rav. T'chsev ish ki yeh tamei lenefesh. Ish nitcha ve'en tzibur nitchen. The Torah says, Lagabi, bring a Pesach Sheni. It says a person who becomes Tameh should bring on the Pesach Sheni. That's telling you that only only an individual waits for Pesach Sheni, but a tzibur does not. But for it to be considered a tzibur, roy, you don't need roy. You just need mechza. By saying that it's only an individual, that means even a minimal tzibur is not gonna have the din of waiting for Pesach Sheni. It's gonna be Deichel etuma, so therefore that means even mechza. Sagt the Gemara weiter. We said in the Mishnah. So again, we have to look at the lashon of the Mishnah again. First, we said Hasheichet echad ba'ayif v'shnayim behemish chatzuk sheira v'ruba shel echad kamayu. We said at the beginning of the Mishnah, if you do one simon by an ayif or two simanim by a behema, it's a kosher shchita. And then we said ruba shel echad kamayu. Ruba is kekulai. As long as it's a roiva of a simon, that's enough. And then at the end of the Mishnah, we say chatzi echad ba'ayif. V'chatzi echad b'mehemesh chitasa psula, roiv echad b'ayv v'roiv shnayim b'mehemesh chitasa kshera. We repeat again this din that a roiv of one simon by ayv and two simonim by behema is kosher. Why are we repeating the same din that we already said? Ruba kukula. Zok Gemara, Tnina chada zimna, Ruba shel echad kamayu. We already said at the beginning of the Mishnah, Ruba shel echad kamayu. Why do we have to repeat? Roiv echad ba'ayif and roiv shnayim b'behema is kosher. Amar Rav Hashia, chada b'chulim v'chada b'kachim. One of these dinim is to tell you the din when you're shechting just to eat. And one is to tell you the din by kachim that on both of these cases, roiv is going to be sufficient. Utricha. Why do we have to say both of them? The Yashmin in Chullin, if I would have just said it by Chullin, Hasamu desagile beruba mishum delav l'damutzar. I would say it's only by Chullin that you can get away with just doing a roiv and not the whole simon, because you're not shechting to get the dam out. Avol kachim del damu tzarich, but by kachim that we need the dam, you need the dam ha chayim to do the zrikas and the avodas hadam. Maybe by kachim you need to do the whole thing. Roiv is not enough. Yashmin in kachim, if you'll say you do roiv by kachim, it's sufficient. Maybe you don't need a roiv. Maybe a half is enough. Kamash Mulan, that's what we have to say. Both chulin and kachim, because we'll always say the other one we'll always say kachim. If we just said it by kachim, we say chulin is more kuladek. It doesn't need roiv. And if we said it by chulin, we'd say kachim needs the whole sin. Zaktamar high chulin, high bekachim. We just said that one time is for chulin, was for kachim. We didn't say which one. Which mention in the Mishnah is referring to chulin, which one is kachim. And I believe the reason why this is relevant is because of Rabbi Yehuda, right? Because we're gonna have a lot of discussions, a lot of rayas about just to prove. We're gonna say that the first one is chulin, the second one is kachim, and the question is whether that which Rabbi Yehuda says they have to do the vridin, is that talking about chulin or kachim? That's why we're so interested to know which mention is chulin and which mention in the Mishnah is kachim. The Gemara asks,
because Yehuda only argues on the first one.
Right. He says his memra on the first part. Amar of Kahana, Mistaver Reisha b'chulin v'sefer b'kachim. Even though it doesn't really make sense. It's a difficult point because Rabbi Yehuda really we're going to say that the first part is right, because it's going to have to be the Reishis b'chulin. We would have to come up with a whole new pshat in Rabbi Yehuda if it's only going by kachim and not by chulin. Right, because before we had said Rabbi Yehuda's reason is to extract the dam. I guess that maybe it's only by kachim and not by chulin. We said that the animals, the behemoths, don't need it. But if the point is to get out all the dam for the avoida, you should need it by a behemoth also, right? Because that's only that dam that comes out from the shechita. So it wouldn't make sense the distinction we made between the oif and the behemoth. I guess it would be a problem for Rav Chizda. You'd have to learn, not like Rav Chizda, that it's not just by oif, it's by behemoth as well. Okay, that's following the trail a little bit. In any case, so this is our question: which one of these mentions in the Mishnah of the din of that roiv is sufficient and required? Is which one is by chulin and which is by kachim? The first one is chulin, and the second one is kachim. The Mishnah starts off someone who shechs b'di'evet. Instead of saying hasheichet, it should say hamoilek. Right? Kachim. You don't do shchita by kachim. You do malika on a oif. It's like the Gemara Alamai Sefer b'kachim shchitasuk sheira malikasuk sheira mibayale. The Sefer also mentioned shchita. Why didn't it say malika if it's talking about kachim? It's about holy kasha. We mentioned both a behema and a oif in the Sefer. So the last thing we mentioned was a behema. I did the salik of behema tani namish chitasik shera. Since we said a oif and a behema, if it's oif it's one, a behema it's two, and then we say it has to be chitasik shera. When we're recapping and saying what the din is, we say it's kosher. We say chitasik shera because that was the last thing we mentioned. El reisha michti al oif kai. So now we're saying the reisha is talking about a oif. If we're talking about kachim, why does it say hamoilek? Sorry. El reisha michti al oif kai. Kachim hamoilek mi bayale. If the reisha is talking about a oif. That means the last thing that we just mentioned was oif. So it should have said, if it was talking about kachim, it should have said hamoilek. So that's taka a good raya. That from the reisha you could see that the fact that it said hasheichet and then it says oif, it wouldn't make sense. It should have said hamoilek. If it was talking about kachim elamai, it must be chulin, and therefore there's no discussion of malik. He says this, they all hold that the reisha is chulin, the sefer is the kachim. There's going to be a number of different rayas for this. So the second raya on this is reisha b'chulim comes from here. The Tani echad ba'oif says you have to do one sim by oif. Yisakadat b'kachim. If you say that the reisha is talking about kachim, ma'ika oilas oif, the boy shnei simanim. How could you say only one simon by oif? You have to do two simanim by an oila. Like we said, because by a chatas it says lo yavdil. But by Oila, you are mechuyev to be mabdal. It's not really a din of shchita kshera, but it's a din of havdalah. Elamai seif b'kachim. Elamai, what about the seifa? It also says roiv echad ba'oif. Like Oila soif. Why don't you have the same kasha on the seifa? The seifa also can't be kachim. The boy shnei simanim. By Oila, you do need shnei simanim. So we're ma roiv echad, roiv kol echad ve'echad. When it says roiv echad by a oif, it means roiv of each simon by an oif in the case of an oila. Obedinu delisni roiv shnaim, given the chati. But really, it should have said roiv of two simonim by a oif when it's a oila oif. Given the chat is sagel bechat simon mishum hachalei psikolei. Since it's not when we're talking about kachim, we can't say either roiv one simon or roiv two simonim. So we gave a indistinct example. We said roiv echad, which could be understood to be roiv avi kol echad ve'echad. So and therefore that could be talking about kachim.
And in the ratio, why couldn't you say the same thing? Give the same answer?
Because we said
we had the same issue.
We said the funny echad ba'oif. I guess the notion of echad ba'oif is not
as
not roiv echad. You can't say roiv kol echad. You can't say kol echad ve'echad. There's no roiv to attach to it. Rav Papa amar reisha b'chulin mehach. Rav Papa says the reisha is b'chulin from here. B'ktani Rav Yehuda Aimer achi yishcharis avridin. On the reisha it said, Rav Yehuda argued, and he said you have to shech the vridin. U'pligim Rabban ola, and the Rabban disagree with him. Yam b'shlam b'chulin shaper. Aliyam b'kachim amai pligim Rabban ola. Ha'atzmei l'damu tzarech. Who atzmei? The kachim, you certainly need dam. So you certainly should need the vridin by kachim. Even though the Rabbanon shouldn't argue on Rabbi Yehuda, they should agree with him. So, therefore, we say that the Taka, that's why Rabbi Yehuda only argued on the ratio, which was Chullin, and on the Sefer, Rabbi Yehuda was not Chaylik. To the Rabbanon were not Chaylik, because they also agreed you have to do the Vridin as well. Rav Ashi Amar Sefer b'kachim mehacha. He says, the Sefer is kachim. Diktani, ha'sheichet shnei roishin ke'echad. If someone uses a knife and he cuts in one motion two animals, he does shchita on two of them at one time, it's kosher. Hashoichet is mashma di'evet in l'chatchila loy. This is the next Mishnah, the following Mishnah after the one that we just concluded. It's mashma that only b'di'evet to cut two at a time, but l'chatchila not. So Yamar b'shlam b'kachim, if we were talking about kachim, hainu l'chatchila loy, then we understand why you can't do two animals at the same time. The Tanur of Yosef, Tizbach, Shaloyu Shnayim Sheichtim Zevach Echad. The pasuk says, doesn't really say Tizbach. The pasuk says, Kidis Tizbechu Zevach Shlam Hashem L'Tzoichem Tizbechu. So we say we darshan Tizbechu as first of all it has the word Tizbach in it, that two people cannot collaborate to shecht one animal, and then tizbechu, the extra lashon, shloyu echad sheichet shnei zvachim, that one person cannot do two zvachim at the same time. So that's the reason why we say l'chatchila you can't shecht two at the same time. Rav Kana tizbechu ksiv, tizbechuhu, tizavchehu. He darshans that he darshans the pasuk that it's not, he doesn't do it like the Kri, he does it with the Ksav. So let's see the Rashi on this. Bamrav Kahana Gasin Hadaresh Lakish Besedi Yum Gabe if you like a guy on that one. Oh no, it doesn't. Tizbach Litzonchem Tizbachu Vamin Lakaman Tizbachu Ksiv Vyesh Aim Lamasaris Tizbach Mashmad L'Shoicha Yechidi Kamar Lo Yishlaim and Lo Ksiv Tizbachu Medechsiv Hu. It's also mashma that the zevach should only be one. So that's where we get that by a kachim it's not supposed to be one person shechting two things at the same time. Eliyam b'chulin. If you say that the second part of our mission is talking about chulin, there's no this isser of this machlokes that we have of whether you can do it one person have one person do two animals is only the gabi kachim. This tizbechu is only by kachim. It wouldn't make sense to then follow this up with the next Mishnah to say it only b'diavad if it would be talking about chulin.
Rav Kahana argues, or he just argues about, he doesn't argue about the ruling, he just argues where it comes from.
I think he's just arguing about where it comes from. Yeah. He says Rav Kahana, I think, is just explaining. I don't think he's even arguing about it. He's just saying that it's going yesh aim lemesiris, and therefore tizavchehu doesn't mean that you should be zayvechet, but rather means tizavchehu that you should do more than one. I'm sorry, that only one person can do the shechita. He's just answering how the mashmayis of the word tizavcheyu, tis bechuhu would mean you could do two. Tizavcheyu means that only you should do it, not another person along with you. That's how you get the second limud. So continue. He also agrees with our analysis. Since we said anyway, you need a rubai, that rubai is kekula. What do we need the second part of the mission? As a tamid kartzu merik achash al yadeh. Because we say it's coming to tell you that this extra limud, not like we had said before. Well, we said one is by kachim, one is by chulim, but it's also coming to tell you this thing, that if when you brought the animal to the kohen gadol to do the avodah, to shech, so we have a problem when the kohen gadol shechs, because he has to do all the avodah in Yom Kippur, and if he does the shechita, how's he going to do the Kabbalah? He's going to have to shecht and then quickly run and catch the dam, which is going to be impossible. So what he does is he does a roiv, and then another kohen takes over and finishes the shechita, and the kohen gadol quickly takes the kli to be makabel the dam. So he vilay a tamid. They would bring him the tamid kirtzai. He would start the cut and do a roiv. Umerik achash shchitasay ayari, and someone else would finish the shechita. Yachalai mirike pasul. I might think if the other person did not complete the shechita, because the kohen gadol already did a roiv of the simanim, I might think since the Mishnah over there says that someone else completes it, that if he didn't complete it, it would be pasul. That's why we said in our Mishnah, the seif of the Mishnah, to tell you don't think like that Mishnah over there. So this is obviously it's talking about kachim, right? This is the Talmud on Yom Kippur, the Talmud all year round, that the kohen gadol does, and we're saying that he does. It's coming to tell you don't have to do. It's not required to do more than roiv. How would I have thought over there that if the kohen hedjit doesn't finish the shechita, it would be possible? If it's possible without the kohen hedjit doing it, then you're having a different problem. He's saying the kohen has to run to do the Kabbalah because he has to do all the avodas. But if it's required that the kohen hedjit finishes the shechita, then that's something that's required that kohen gadol is not doing. The tiny kol avodah Yom Kippur and shares elabai. So when hachi kama yachol yeh pasul midrabanan. I might think that it should be pasul midrabanan if it wasn't complete. I might think that midrabanan that unless you finish the siman midrabanan, it's no good. That you only need a roiv even midrabanan. That means if we're saying in this case that even the Rabbanon you don't have to do it, so why are we finishing the shechita? So Gemara mitzvah lamarik. It's not. It's only a lechatchila. It's a mitzvah to finish it off, but it's not that it's required even midrabanan. It's just midrabanan. They want it, and therefore you do it. Okay, we'll stop over here.
Thank you. Have a great
Have a
Shabbos.
good Shabbos. I'll see you Bez Shem right after Shabbos.
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 Right after Shabbos.